This is Hades, Condensed. Our story begins with Zagreus, son of Hades, who has decided to try and escape the underworld, a feat no one has ever accomplished. The Olympian gods have somehow taken notice of Zagreus and his escape attempt, and they help him out by granting their divine boons. The underworld wretches prove to be too much for him, and he ends up dying. No worries though, Zagreus is a god himself, and he resurrects in the pool of Styx, returning to his home in the house of Hades. Hypnos, the embodiment of sleep, is the first to greet him upon his return. Hades sees that his son's escape attempt has failed and dismisses it as a futile exercise.
What do I care? You shall never reach the surface. Go, see for yourself.
Aside from his father, Zagreus gets along just fine with the other residents in the House of Hades. Like Achilles, the legendary hero who is now an undead resident, serves as Zagreus' combat mentor. Nyx, the incarnation of night, is Zagreus' adoptive mother, and she fully supports his decision to leave the underworld. Nyx gives her Mirror of Night to Zagreus, which can help him get stronger. Then there's Skelly, who offers himself as a training dummy for Zagreus to test his weapons on. It's impossible for Skelly to die, so Zagreus is free to hit him as much as he pleases. Dusa, a floating Gorgon head who works as a maid, always gets super flustered whenever she's around Zagreus. And of course, we can't forget Cerberus, the three-headed dog with a fearsome reputation, though around his family, he's just a good boy who loves being pet. Escaping the underworld will take a lot of trial and error, but Zagreus is set on getting out no matter what. First, he has to get through Tartarus, the deepest part of the underworld, where the sinful dead are sentenced to eternal punishment. More of the Olympian gods find out about Zagreus and offer their boons to him. The gods that help out include Zeus, god of sky and thunder, Poseidon, god of the sea, Athena, goddess of wisdom, Aphrodite, goddess of love, Artemis, goddess of the hunt, Ares, god of war, Dionysus, god of wine, Hermes, the messenger god, and finally, Demeter, goddess of the four seasons. To be clear, the gods aren't actually there in person. Zagreus can hear the gods when he accepts their boons, but they cannot hear him. They assume he's trying to escape the underworld to reach Mount Olympus, though that's not what he's after. The Olympian gods don't always get along, but they all want to help Zagreus, and they're clearly excited to welcome a new family member. Though he can't speak to them directly, Zagreus is somehow able to offer gifts, primarily nectar and ambrosia, which they always reciprocate with something special in return.
Lady Artemis, I hope that you'll accept this offering for all your kindness and support.
Hey, thank you for this, really. And I've just the thing to offer in return. It's just a gift, okay?
Zagreus also gets help from some of the other underworld denizens like Charon, the underworld boatman who sells him assorted goods. Charon's speech mainly consists of moans and groans that are completely unintelligible. There's also Sisyphus, accompanied by his giant boulder which he's affectionately named Boldy. Despite being condemned to eternal punishment, he's quite friendly and always helps out Zagreus whenever the two of them meet. Occasionally, a portal to the void will open up, or Chaos, a primordial being who is said to be the first living thing in existence, will beckon to Zagreus. Even Chaos will offer their support, simply because they enjoy the spectacle of Zagreus' escape attempts. With all the help Zagreus is getting, it's only natural there would be some opposition, like Megara, the oldest of the Fury sisters. She's a tough opponent, but should she be bested in combat, Zagreus will be allowed to exit Tartarus and move on to the next underworld realm, Asphodel. Once a lush meadow, Asphodel has become a land of magma, home to the souls of the ordinary dead. As if the hordes of undead weren't enough, Zagreus has to face the Bone Hydra before he can leave Asphodel. Zagreus keeps trying to escape the underworld, dying over and over, yet with each effort, he gets a little closer. So, why is he so determined to leave? Back home, when Zagreus goes to bed, we see a flashback. Some time ago, in the middle of the night, Hypnos casted a spell that put everyone in the House of Hades into a deep slumber, except for Zagreus. Zagreus takes this chance to snoop around his father's desk, and he finds a letter addressed to Hades from someone named Persephone.
Hades, I can no longer tolerate my life here in this place. So I'm leaving, even if it kills me. I won't be returning to Olympus.
Thanks to a slip-up from the narrator, kind of a fourth wall break, Zagreus finds out who she really is.
Thus did Prince of the Underworld Zagreus absorb the contents of this hidden letter, written in his mother's hand.
His mother's hand. My mother's hand? Wait, what? You're saying this Persephone, that she's my mother?
Now we know that Zagreus wants to reach the surface to meet his mom, who might not even know he exists. So Zagreus continues his escape attempts, and when he finally defeats the Bone Hydra, he's allowed to move forward into Elysium. Elysium is a paradise reserved for great heroes and those who were generally favored by the gods. At the end of Elysium lies a grand arena, where Theseus and Asterius wait to challenge Zagreus in combat. Curiously, the Olympian gods also lend Theseus their strength whenever he calls for them, working against Zagreus. If he beats the two champions, Zagreus will reach the uppermost part of the underworld, the Temple of Styx, which is just beneath the surface. Cerberus blocks the way out, but because he's a good boy, he's willing to look the other way if he gets a little bribe. Zagreus searches through the Satyr tunnels until he finds a sack filled with vermin that Cerberus would love to eat. The sack is enough for Cerberus to abandon his post, allowing Zagreus to walk out the door leading to the surface. And so, Zagreus steps out onto the surface for the very first time, only to be greeted by Hades himself. Since the underworld has a reputation for being unescapable, Hades has to personally stop Zagreus. This might take a couple tries, but if Zagreus ends up beating Hades, he will accept his defeat before being carried away by the river Styx. Following Nyx's instructions, Zagreus starts walking through the snowy landscape, towards the place his mother might be. It doesn't take long for Zagreus to find Persephone, amidst a lush garden.
My name is Zagreus, and I think I might be your son.
What? How dare! Get out of here! Get out or I shall make you! Out with you!
Persephone quickly realizes that Zagreus is indeed her son. She thought he died at birth. Zagreus updates his mom on everything that has happened so far. Unfortunately, due to Zagreus' nature as an underworld denizen, he begins to die. He promises to come back. There is still a lot for them to talk about. So he's taken away by the Styx and returns to the house of Hades. Hades berates Zagreus for being late, and weirdly, he appears to have no memory of being defeated by his son. I think Hades does remember. I don't think he was in denial about it either. He just didn't want to acknowledge it in front of the others. He has a reputation to uphold after all. Anyway, Zagreus still has to go through hell repeatedly, just to see his mom for a few brief moments, but he's already done it, and he's willing to do it again and again. Each time Zagreus reaches the surface, Persephone shares more about her situation. She used to reside on Olympus with the other gods, but she eventually came to live in the underworld with Hades. Zeus noticed Hades' interest in Persephone and offered to send her to the underworld in secret. Persephone hated living on Olympus, so she agreed to this. Though she largely preferred the underworld over Olympus, she never truly felt at home in either realm. When she gave birth to Zagreus and he came out stillborn, she left the underworld. Somehow, Nyx persuaded her daughters, the Fates, to bring Zagreus back to life. Zagreus later finds out that Demeter is Persephone's mother, and just like most of the Olympian gods, she thinks her daughter is dead.
Kore, we called her then. Persephone is what she called herself. Before she vanished utterly, leaving no trace.
Persephone doesn't want the Olympian gods to know she's alive, and she definitely does not want them to know where she's hiding. Demeter has been quite open about grieving Persephone's alleged death, and she especially would be upset upon hearing the truth. And Zeus doesn't seem like he's going to own up to his mistake. If Olympus were to find out that Persephone secretly left them to go to the underworld, war could break out between the two realms. So things are getting complicated, and Hades isn't being cooperative when it comes to giving answers. Zagreus decides that the best thing to do right now is to convince his mom to return to the underworld. Persephone has grown quite fond of her new home, so Zagreus tries to find a way to coax her into coming back. With Achilles' help, Zagreus sneaks into Hades' private bedroom and finds a painted portrait of Persephone, clear evidence that Hades really does miss his wife. Zagreus tells Persephone about this, and it seems to get through to her, because the next time Zagreus visits, she packs her things and prepares to go back to the underworld, with Charon as their transport. On the river Styx, Zagreus and Persephone ride Charon's boat all the way back to the house of Hades. Hades and Cerberus are the first to greet them back home. Persephone warmly greets Cerberus before acknowledging Hades. What a power move. While it's clear that something must be done about their predicament, Persephone insists that Hades first reconcile with his son. And so he does. Hades apologizes for his harsh demeanor and for having withheld the truth about Persephone. Hades admits that Zagreus' escape attempts have revealed security flaws in the underworld. So he's encouraged to continue his escape attempts, which helps keep everything looking normal while giving Persephone time to work on whatever plan she has. The family is back together, and the house of Hades is a little less dreary now that their queen has returned. Zagreus continues fighting through the underworld, all the while building his relationships with the Olympian gods, as well as the other residents of the underworld. I suppose it's not too late to introduce some of the others, like Thanatos, the personification of death. He's been consistently helping Zagreus in his past escape attempts and still helps out occasionally. Zagreus can also meet Orpheus, a legendary musician, and help him reconnect with his estranged muse, Eurydice. In the fields of Elysium, Zagreus might also come across Patroclus, Achilles' lost lover. With some intervention, Zagreus can help them see each other again. Sometimes, instead of fighting Megara, her two younger sisters might show up instead. There's Alecto, she's sadistic and delights in violence, always insulting Zagreus whenever they interact. And there's Tisiphone, who has a very limited vocabulary. That's all she knows how to say. Now that everyone has been introduced, let's take a look at the family tree. Let's start with Chaos. It all began with them after all. Chaos is basically everyone's great times 100 grandparent. Their direct daughter is Nyx, and she had Thanatos, Hypnos, and Charon. A bit further down the line, there's Zeus and his two brothers, Poseidon and Hades. Zeus is the father of Aphrodite, Ares, Athena, Artemis, Dionysus, and Hermes. Demeter and an unnamed mortal had Persephone, which makes her half-mortal. And of course, Hades and Persephone are Zagreus' parents, which makes Zagreus 25% mortal and 75% god. I only showed the familial ties of the in-game god characters. The entire family tree is a bit more complicated. After enough time has passed, Persephone reveals her plan to Zagreus. They are going to invite the Olympian gods for a gathering and lie about what happened, though they'll mix in a bit of truth as well.
What are you going to say?
Oh, you know, that we met, fell in love, eloped, had a child. A child who, once grown, sought desperately to reconnect with his extended family. Fortunately, our loving and dutiful son at last persuaded his mother and father to reveal their secretive relationship.
In a way, it's a carefully crafted lie that's almost the whole truth. Demeter will be the most difficult to appease, so Persephone presumes she will have to visit her regularly to maintain harmony. So Zagreus sets out to invite the Olympian gods one by one. At the gathering, Persephone tells them how she ended up in the underworld and that Zagreus was trying to connect with his family on Olympus. The gods believe the half-truth, and naturally Zeus plays along. He never reveals how he sent Persephone to Hades out of pity. The family gathering turns out successful, and everyone seems content with how things turned out. Crisis averted. So that was Hades Condensed. Thanks for watching.